Good morning, Pastor Brian here. Thank you for joining me today as we read a chapter a day through the book of Psalms. Today we'll be reading Psalm 88. I'll be reading from the Common English Bible as I do each time that we gather together. And today we have a psalm that has a slightly different way of presenting itself, and we'll get into that after we read the psalm together. But I just want you to think about, as you read it, how you might think this one differs from some of the other psalms that we've heard in the past that have a similar style. Psalm 88. Lord, God of my salvation, by day I cry out. Even at night before you, let my prayer reach you. Turn your ear to my outcry, because my whole being is filled with distress. My life is at the very brink of hell. I am considered as one of those plummeting into the pit. I am like those who are beyond help, drifting among the dead, lying in the grave like dead bodies. Those you don't remember anymore, those who are cut off from your power. You placed me down in the deepest pit, in places dark and deep. Your anger smothers me. You subdue me with it, wave after wave. You've made my friends distant. You've made me disgusting to them. I can't escape. I'm trapped. My eyes are tired of looking at my suffering. I've been calling out to you every day, Lord. I've had my hands outstretched to you. Do you work wonders for the dead? Do ghosts rise up and give you thanks? Is your faithful love proclaimed in the grave, your faithfulness in the underworld? Are your wonders known in the land of darkness, your righteousness in the land of oblivion? But I cry out to you, Lord. My prayer meets you first thing in the morning. Why do you reject my very being, Lord? Why do you hide your face from me? Since I was young, I've been afflicted. I've been dying. I've endured your terrors. I'm lifeless. Your fiery anger has overwhelmed me. Your terrors have destroyed me. They surround me all day long like water. They engulf me completely. You've made my loved ones and companions distant. My only friend is darkness. That's the end of Psalm 88. So again, I mentioned that this psalm is different from ones like it in the past. And what I mean by that, and maybe you picked up on it, is that typically, and I'm going to call out the type of psalm it is, even though I try to avoid that so that you can figure that out. But this is a lament psalm. And in our typical lament psalms, there is a time in the psalm somewhere, usually towards the end, but somewhere, where the psalmist goes back to hope and trust in God, where the psalmist ends or experiences some kind of more positive note in their relationship with God. And we don't get this in this one. The closest thing we get is that my prayer meets you first thing in the morning, which is the second half of verse 13. But for the most part, there's no turning around in this particular psalm. And maybe that is where the psalmist was at that moment. Just like you and I, there are moments in our lives where we're not there yet. We're not past the grief and the sorrow and the despair that we're experiencing, whether it's from loss of someone in our life or just so many things that we see going on around us that it's overwhelming, and we feel despair because of it. We feel hopeless because of it, wondering, what can I do? I'm just one person. What can I do? And so we despair over those things. And I feel like that the psalmist is in that place. I feel like the psalmist is experiencing something. Maybe, the psalms were written by different people, but if we can generalize for a moment, that the psalmist in this time, in this moment, does not have that sense of hope yet. That they are so caught up in the grief, in the feeling of God's absence. Even though God is always with us, we feel that too. We feel, God, where are you? It's not to say that we don't know that God's with us. It's just that that's our experience in that moment. And so the psalmist is experiencing that absence, that feeling like even friends and loved ones and family are against him. And just in that difficult moment where that's all the psalmist can see. And again, and that's not to kind of draw us into despair also, but to know that these are real and fresh and raw emotions happening. And I think all the better that this psalm is in here to help us see that in our own times of trials, our own times of difficulty and sorrow and grief and loss, that even there are even books, chapters, psalms in the Bible in which we can turn to and kind of feel that sense of connection, that other people are going through the same thing and that other people have been going through the same thing for thousands of years. And that we do see in the other psalms that there is hope and that there is joy. And that maybe it just takes a little more time for this psalmist in this psalm to get to that place. So what did you hear? What did you like? What didn't you like? Write it down. Share it with a friend. Share it with us. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And God bless.